On this episode of Homemaking with Purpose, I thought it would be fun to take a back look at a video that I did on getting motivated to clean your garage. There are so many little tips and tricks that I gave in that video, and I thought it would be fun to just look back and get your reaction and also to see if I still felt the same way. And then I'll be asking you if you thought that particular suggestion or tip was a zero or a hero. Let's get it started. The garage is always a trouble spot for so many homes. So on this episode of the Mega Motivation Collaboration, I'm going to give you 7 tips on how to get your garage cleanup started and finished. Tip number 1, before you start a large project like cleaning a garage or cleaning your basement, make a plan. Write it down in a notebook, your planner, or your control journal. Then on the day you plan to start, get your daily routines out of the way first. That means get your dishwasher unloaded, your laundry started, do all those things that you do on a routine basis in the morning out of the way first. That way, your routines are done for the day and you can focus on the project at hand. Is that tip a hero or a zero? Tell me in the comments section, and if you're here on the live, tell me in the chat. Tip number 2 is there is no deep cleaning or zone work when you start your garage project. The large project you're working on is it. You'll only be doing your daily routines and your weekly plan until your project is completed. And as soon as you complete your morning routines, I encourage you to get started on your garage project. That way, if life happens later in the day, your morning routines are done and you've got that garage project started. Is that one a zero or a hero? Personally, I think it's a hero because you really don't want to expend all of your energy focusing on deep cleaning or zone cleaning when you've got this major project at hand. Now, tip number 3 proved to be quite controversial. I suggested to break the project up into pieces, but so many people said, why don't you just go ahead and get it done and just spend several hours and be done with it. I happen to disagree with that point of view because I think you can get overwhelmed and then you tend to want to stop. And then there's other things you need to get done that doesn't. So is that suggestion to break it up into pieces a zero or a hero? Let's take a look at what I had to say on the video. Tip number 3 is to break the project up into pieces. Think of it like a puzzle. There are so many pieces that it takes to make a complete picture. How many puzzle pieces are there that make up this project? If you've got a 5-shelf system that you want to work on, then each shelf might be a puzzle piece. If the shelves are extremely large or extremely cluttered, or maybe pretty wide, then maybe each shelf is 2 pieces of the puzzle. Maybe you've got a bunch of boxes that you need to go through. Count those boxes as a puzzle piece. So for example, that shelf would be 1 piece. This shelf would be another piece. This shelf a piece. And then maybe these things here might be a piece. So I'm going to divide it up into various 30-minute increments and see how many pieces I think I actually have. And then I will look at the calendar and see how many days I think it will take me to complete that. And once you count up the number of pieces that you have to work on, you can plot out a date on your calendar as to when you think this project is going to be done and give yourself a couple of extra weeks just in case life happens. Say you are going to have 25 pieces that you need to do. Then you're going to plot out 25 days on your planner or on your calendar. And then you'll work on 1 or 2 pieces each day, depending upon your preference. The big thing is to decide how many pieces you think you can accomplish in a 15 to 30 minute period. You're going to work on your garage project or your basement project or whatever major project it is in 15 to 30 minute increments. That's if you're working on it every day, Monday through Friday. If you're only going to work on it on the weekend, then you might decide to set 1 hour increments. But still, you're looking at 4 to 5 pieces that you can accomplish in that 60-minute period. Tip number 4 is to have several boxes or bins for giveaway, put away, and throw away. I'll be using a large trash container on my project, but you can use a black trash bag, something that your family members can't see what's inside, so they're not tempted to take things out. Your giveaway box is the box that you're going to take to the donation center, and you don't want to write donate on the box. You don't want to do anything to the box that makes you want to get the box back. And these bins should be close by so you're not running all around the garage, wasting energy or time. And please don't go down a rabbit hole with memorabilia. One of the suggestions that I made when working on a large project is not to tackle memorabilia. Just put it off until later. I will set memorabilia aside because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Personally, I've got a couple of boxes of memorabilia in the house that I need to work on, but I've got some other decluttering that I need to do first, so I'm going to tackle that before I go down that rabbit hole of memorabilia. But what are your thoughts? Is that suggestion a 0 or a hero? If there's something that you're unsure of, it's something you think you might want to keep because it's got some memories related to it, put it in your put away box. That gives you a little bit more time to think about it. And then once you're working on the put away process, you can think about whether or not you really want to keep it. And if you absolutely positively can't decide today, then put it in a box that you have set aside for memorabilia or for keepsakes. And then you can decide on those things when you're less emotional. So my task for today is this blue bin right here. So let's get it started. Now this little fountain, I'll have to have the hubby check it to see if it still works. It used to be my mom's. So if it works, I'll use it on the porch. So let me put it in the box. Now I'm definitely keeping these 2 little baby dolls. These are some that I use when I'm doing community events. This particular baby right here, my granddaughter said, oh, it looks creepy, but I let her know, well, this is a sick baby, it's a preemie, and sometimes they're born too soon and they need special care. So that's why I have this one, and this one has some other things, some markings on it that we used to use in the foundations lab. So I'm gonna set these aside. Try to decide if it's something that can serve you now, keep it. If it doesn't serve you now, let it go so that it can serve someone else. Now, tip number 5 is a big one, and it is not to be held hostage by guilty clutter. How many of you have been held hostage by guilty clutter? What is guilty clutter? Well, it is those things that have been given to you either as gifts. Maybe they belong to family members who are now deceased and they've been passed on to you to be holder of the family goods. So let me know your thoughts on that. Not to be held hostage by guilty clutter. Is that a 0 or a hero? Tip number 5 is don't be held hostage by guilty clutter. What is guilty clutter? Well, these are items or gifts that you've been given by someone else. They're not something you purchased for yourself, but they're something that someone else gave you and you feel obligated to keep it. Or it might be something you've purchased for yourself. You put it away, put it aside, you haven't been using it, but you paid good money for it. So you're thinking, oh, well, I've got to keep this because I paid for it. No, you don't. You've already spent the money. You either got the use out of it or you decided not to use it. Whatever it is, if you don't love it, you don't use it, you don't need it, let it go to serve someone else. Now my sister gave me this. It's something to put a mixing bowl on when you're stirring it so it doesn't move around. and I've not tried it. So I'm going to put it aside and I'll give it a try this week. And if I decide I don't care for it, then it's going to get tossed. I've been wondering where this was. I've actually been looking for this rice cooker. And if it's something you think you might use, but you haven't used it all this while, but you're thinking, oh, I forgot I had this, I might use it, then put it somewhere that you can easily access it and give yourself a use-by date, say a week or 2 weeks. And if you don't use it in that time frame, then the next time you make your run to the donation center, it's gotta go. Oh, ha. This is a horseshoe game we use when the kids are here. So it needs to be elsewhere. So I'll set it in the box down here for me to reposition it. I have no idea what these are. They must be something that the hubby uses. So I'll put this on his side of the garage and he can address it. Now, this particular tip had to do with not discarding other people's stuff. Let's take a listen and then let me know whether you think it's a 0 or a hero. Tip number 6 is don't throw away somebody else's stuff. Now that's a hard one. And as parents, sometimes you might feel like you need to help your children declutter. But what you don't want to have happen is your children feel like every time they leave the house or go away somewhere, they come back, things are missing. Help them make the decision to declutter. When it comes to your partner or your spouse, they need to manage their own things. Hopefully your example can provide the motivation to help them decide to declutter. But if not, you have to let them handle their own stuff. Now, as we think about this dialogue, sometimes other people's stuff can get out of control and it can be driving you absolutely crazy. But what I'm thinking is that you go ahead and set the example. You take care of your things, and then hopefully they'll get around to taking care of their things. So, 0 or hero? Let me know. This video is brought to you by Apron Diva. Pretty and practical, we believe that an apron can be a homemaker's best accessory. Visit us at www.aprondiva.com. Now, tip number 7 is probably the most important one, and that is to finish the process. First of all, so often we get started and we don't finish, but the other thing is that the giveaway, put away, throw away doesn't always end up in the bins where they need to be. So finish the process is uniquely Fly Lady Cat, but it's something you want to do with every task. So let's take a listen to what I have to say about that, and then you can let me know whether or not you think it's a 0 or a hero. And tip number 7 is to finish the process. That means the things that you are going to put away, you're going to take them and put them away right then. Put them where they belong so they don't end up cluttering up another spot. If you're not sure at this point where they're going to go, you don't have a space for them to go to, then put them in the room that you think they're going to go in and let them sit in a corner in a box in that room until you get that space cleared out and can get them organized satisfactorily. The things that you are going to donate, take that bin to your car and put it in your trunk immediately. Because what you don't want to have happen is to have things that are in the box to be donated. All of a sudden, they've somehow gotten incorporated back into either the things in your garage or the things in your house. And where does the phrase finish the process come from? That comes from Fly Lady Cat. She always says, finish the process. And when you finish the process, it just leaves your space so much cleaner and clutter-free. I'll link Fly Lady Cat in the description box just so you can check her out. The blue bin is empty. funny thing, someone had just called to ask if I had this information here. So I'm going to take this box of informational packets in the house so that I can give it to the person that needs it. And then I've got about 10 minutes left to work on this project. So I'm going to spend those 10 minutes taking care of these things, getting these things put where they need to go. I couldn't remember what these burlap bags for, and then I remembered we probably used them for a sack race. So I'll put this where I put those horseshoes, because these are things my husband uses to set up games and things like that in the yard when the kids are here. Well, there goes the timer, so my time is up. And I'm pretty pleased with the work I got done today. I got that blue bin emptied, and then tomorrow I'll work on this bin right here. Now let me just remind you that as I worked on the bin that was assigned for today, I didn't spend a lot of time running around taking things here and there. I had a box right here on the floor that I was going to put things in that I needed to put away. And then I used the last 10 minutes of my 30 minutes to put those things away. And I actually had 2 or 3 minutes left over that I could start to work on some things down there on the floor. But what I didn't want to do was get involved in something else that would take me quite a bit of time. And as one of my viewers pointed out, I got the easy stuff done first, and that was those top 3 shelves. Now the hard stuff is going to be this bin right here, but that's for another day. One thing about garages in particular is that they can be the never-ending story. You can get your garage cleaned up, all neatly decluttered and organized, and within maybe 1 to 2 years, it's a hot mess again, because we tend to bring in more than we take out. So you'll want to stay on top of the decluttering, whether it's in the house or in the garage. You want to try to set the rule of 1 in and 1 out. And that way you can stay on top of things. For more homemaking and homekeeping information, click here.